2009, volunteers learning to shoot alternative news programmes with the charity WORLDbytes for the online channel WORLDbytes created over 100 programmes, many involving interviews with the public on the streets of London. Taking public debate seriously involved setting up cameras in public spaces across the city. Our crews never once experienced complaints from the public, many of whom were only too delighted to provide their stories, insights and views to camera. Yet frequently our crews were stopped from filming and even provided with a yellow ticket by the police. They were stopped outside shopping centres by security guards and in public squares, markets and spaces by community wardens and council officials. Yet filming in public spaces is not against the law. The charity decided it was time to make a stand and to re-establish the freedom to film. Volunteers announced their intention to film in 3 locations in Hackney, East London. Hackney Film Unit tried to argue that public squares are private property, but for the first time in a year, officials were nowhere to be seen on the day.
Hello, this is Rosie Rickett reporting for WORLDbytes, and we're here in Hackney in Mandeville Square. Today we're talking about our right to film in public.
And it's important that we're here today because this is the square, very local to our charity centre where all our volunteers learn to shoot the news. This is a square where we are stopped from filming all of the time, and it's usually by a bureaucrat who is interpreting the law as they see fit based on prevailing fears, assumption and risk aversion, which is very, very sad. The other thing we often find here is that people say that we have to prove that we're an official news crew. Well, that goes against the grain, and we want to support citizenship journalism, which should mean that anybody can film, any member of the public can bring out their film camera or their stills camera and pick up and question and view and record what's going on in the world around them and in their own streets. And the irony is, even in a square like this, there are CCTV cameras everywhere. In fact, in London we're probably filmed over 300 times a day on average when we're out and about. Yet as London citizens we're not allowed to get out our camera and shoot news and news programmes ourselves or question what's going on. As citizens we should have the right and freedom to film in public spaces like this and not be stopped, not be turned away and not be questioned for promoting what should be a matter of everyday democracy.
I took part in a WORLDbytes documentary set before, and we were moved on from filming in a market. We were told it was illegal for us to be filming there. And I'm a law student, and I looked into it a bit, and apparently they're told they're trespassing or that they're doing things wrong by being on public land, because the land is apparently owned by the council. Well, I looked into it a bit more, and obviously this doesn't constitute professional advice, but any land the council has is actually land it holds in trust for the public, and any land it holds in trust for the public, we as the public should obviously morally be able to use, and in fact legally speaking we own it as much as they do. So it's really rubbish to suggest that we don't have the right to film here, and indeed it's rubbish to suggest that there's any legal impediment to us filming here unless we're causing a nuisance or unless we're getting in people's way.
I was just passing through because I live around the corner, so there you go.
And what do you think about restrictions on our right to film in public?
I don't agree with them, obviously. And the thing is, as far as I'm aware, there aren't actually really any restrictions. It seems to be more people just assuming there are and stopping people from filming. It seems to have collectively developed a sort of hysteria about imageries and things, and I think it's silly, and people need to be told that it's not the law and that we do have a right to film where we want.
So what would you say to Hackney Council that often tells our film crews to pack up and leave?
I have strong words to say to Hackney Council. I think Hackney Council are rightly proud of the amount of creativity there is in this area and this borough, and to attempt to stifle it at a street level is pretty self-defeating. I mean, it's people like you guys who'll be filling the galleries and cinemas in years to come, and they'll be quite eager to get on board then. So I think it's worth telling them to stop messing you guys around.
I have a butcher shop here, and not very long, about a year ago, and in this trade about 20 years, in this market 20 years.
And what do you think about the fact that we keep being told that we can't film in public?
Totally ridiculous. If you're not disturbing the other people's, if these films are in people's benefit, and if there's no law you're breaking, shouldn't be a problem. It's a free country. I've heard the news the other day, I think on the TV that, or maybe on the radio, there was an old lady, I think a granny or something, and she was taking a picture of her grandson, and she's been stopped. I don't know why. Ridiculous. Not everybody is a bad person, so you just can't expect that every person who's walking there, is a bad person. So you have to figure out, between good and bad, and then implement your laws.
Yeah, I'm a working photographer. I'm a freelance. I work for all kinds of different media. Some of it is on the streets, photographing like events and stuff. I'm here to basically defend the right of people to be able to do that. I think it's really important to have this kind of freedom.
Have you ever been stopped whilst you're photographing in public?
To be honest, very, very rarely. But that's still not the point. Because I know lots of instances of people who have been stopped, and there's like this creeping or encroaching attacks on people's rights, people from the public, to photograph and film people in public spaces.
What do you think about risks to our nation's children in terms of paedophiles filming them in public?
I find this really offensive, the idea that kind of everybody virtually can be considered to be a paedophile with a camera. It actually doesn't make the world a safer place for children. All it does is it just poisons our relationships, especially the relationships between adults and children, and undermines the whole idea of like adult responsibility and authority.
So you think that we should be left alone to mediate our own relationships with the public?
Yeah, I think we do. We need a lot more kind of informal relationships built, and trust in particular. I think trust is like an invaluable social cement, if you like, and we need to build that up.
I'm Peter Marshall, and I'm a freelance photographer, and I photograph around London. I have a website, My London Diary, and photograph all sorts of events on the streets of London. And I'm very much in support of people being able to take photographs in public places. Certainly in America it's seen very much as part of free speech. And I feel that, if you're in public and other people that you're photographing are also in public, then I think that you've got a right to photograph. And I think it's important as a photographer for me to make a record of the times in which I live. And that's what most of my work is about. And if I can't photograph people, if people stop me from photographing, then we're not going to have that kind of record by me and other people about what it was like to be here, and also about sort of important things that are happening that don't sort of get in the papers as well. At the moment, I think it's all to do with anti-terrorist legislation.
Everybody now, one more.
Over the years, I've been involved with a lot of guerrilla filmmakers who don't pay for permits and things like that, and we just go and shoot wherever we want to. When I first became aware of the fact that I could actually do that was we'd stopped some traffic on a roundabout and we faked a crash, and we were seen on CCTV. The police were sent down to see what we were doing, and once they realised we were just filmmakers, they actually told us, they said, we don't have the right to stop you from filming. We can ask you, but we can't stop you. And so that was that. We went to town then. We just we didn't take the mickey, but we just carried on filming and did filming wherever we wanted to. I don't think the general public mind too much. Most people like a camera.
I think the freedom to film and photograph in public spaces is very important. It's not clear why filmmakers and photographers are being stopped. I think it's very important because the right to film is very closely linked to our right to free speech. So the right to speak about what we see, if you like, or, the right to see what we speak about. The two things are very closely linked. But as an artist, it affects me because if you can't film or photograph in public, can I draw in public? Could I turn up here with an easel, set up an easel and start painting and drawing? How does that affect me? But by all means, protect us from terrorists, but protect us from totalitarianism, totalitarian states, or too much bureaucracy. We certainly need to do something. We need to stand up now, I think, and just before it gets too late.
I think if people here generally, they worry about so much about security, they're over-secured themselves. Just let it go, relax a little bit.
And I don't think that the government should have a campaign to tell us how to be responsible in taking pictures or in talking to people, because, in fact, I don't think the English talk to each other enough. I think there's already far too much this culture of fear that we have. And quite frankly, there's not that much terrorism, and we just hear it all the time in the media and from the government. And I think there's far too much restrictions being placed on that. It's a great excuse to restrict whatever people want to restrict. And actually, a lot of problems with society and problems with the government are found and are shown to the public through journalism. So it's one of the most essential checks that we have on democracy. The fact that if you want to film, you have to get a permit through the local council. So if you want to make a documentary, this is something which really strikes me as being very elitist and quite worrying for society, because if only the BBC or the main TV channels are allowed to make documentaries because they're the only people who have enough money or enough resources to get a permit from the council, and the council look at their application first, that means that there's a wealth of people who can't enter in these institutions, that can't speak about anything that they want to, and they can't discover any issues in their local areas. And I think that's really elitist, and I think that's something that is important, is addressed really.
Well, ironically, I went to China a couple of years ago and wanted to take pictures of the Tiananmen Square. We were quite nervous. People said, you have to take pictures with your boyfriend in front, the person you're trying to take pictures of. And actually, I had no problems whatsoever. We took pictures of Tiananmen Square, of the police, of everything. No problems at all. So it was less of a problem than here, than in London, ironically.
We had a one-day victory asserting the freedom to film in public spaces, and will no longer accept the arbitrary interference of officials who try to stop our crews from filming. We will record every attempt to curtail our freedom, and we will challenge every restriction on citizen journalism.
Well done, all of us.